everyone. Welcome to HIAC. We're going to do a quick intro. HIAC Talk Radio. You know where it is. You know where to find it. You know how to download it. I'm Dan. Craig's with me, and we have a special guest. The short story of asking for interviews is, believe it or not, I have severe anxiety. I know, shocking. But it takes me about a month to ask somebody to do an interview. If this was about a month and I finally was like, yeah, of course. Then the anxiety comes out. But I'm really excited for this one. We've only met once or twice. But we were kind of part of the same world for a little while, but not really. You'll understand when we talk about this. But it's from HIAC Club Pro Wrestling. HIAC Club with a 1. Look them up on. We're going to talk about them as well because we're talking, especially that title belt, and we're going to talk about that also in this interview because I want to plug the hell out of HIAC Club. But it's Chris Kazama. Chris, how are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here to talk to you face to face, and just so we can talk. That's really what we're here for, I guess, is so that way we can talk.
Yeah, talk. The way we're saying the word talk is, as the kids say, because I'm an old man, is spill the tea. It sounds so dirty when I say it. No, but so softball it. I said I was going to softball it at first, so I'm just going to throw this out there. How did you get into watching wrestling, and how did that evolve into you getting involved with wrestling? That's how I wanted to say it.
So my road to wrestling is like extra weird, right? Specifically how far back it was. I know my mom would let me watch like SmackDown when I could get my hands on it, but Dad would let me watch he had tapes of Japan, and he had tapes of like wrestling and romance, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool because they're really beating the snot out of each other. And so then I would visit him for the summer, and I would watch those tapes, and come back and I'm watching SmackDown. I was like, okay, I get that there's a difference in style, and that was the first time that I'm aware of this is might be on the up and up, but this was really cool that this is almost like an art form.
Yeah.
And so at 16 I moved to at 15 I moved to DC, but at 16 I meet a group of one day I decide let's start a backyard fed. And that backyard fed lasted 17 minutes. We had one match, and then we never got back to run shows. But then when I turned 19, so this is 2009, I created something called DCW Destroy Everything. It was I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I wanted to be a pro wrestler, but being from DC, Maryland, in 2009, Maryland, Baltimore seemed like crossing the Red Sea to get to. It felt like a voyage to the idea of going to Baltimore, and it's an hour away from DC. And now that I'm an adult, I realize that I probably could have made it. Yeah. But as an 18 or 19-year-old kid who comes from poverty, who is hopping the rails to get on the subway train, the idea to get to Baltimore, it's okay, I've got to pack some clothes for 6 days. I've got to get a llama. I need a Sherpa. I just need an assortment of things that I just can't get to because there's no way for me to get there. So we created this backyard wrestling company called DCW, and it was we're going to just be the most DC-centric backyard company of all time. We didn't have mats. We went to Franklin Square Park, which is right in the heart of the business center of DC. And we took orange cones and we made corners, and we had pretend invisible ropes, and we're our ages were 16 to there was a 28-year-old who used to wrestle with us. So 16 to 20-year-olds was us, and we're just having matches, right? We're just wrestling and we're suplexing and we're bumping. There is video out there, there's a YouTube channel, so if at any point you want to go check it out, you can, but we're just really going for it. And so eventually though, I end up becoming friends with all of these people. And I'm still yarding, and I'm taking some pro appearances here and there because I did end up eventually going in my 20s go to get trained. But I'm still yarding because my passion is backyard wrestling because of the freedom of expression that you get. You get to create everything yourself. It's so DIY, and that's kind of how I've come up So I'm just passionate, and throwing all this passion and learning how to video edit and learning how to do commentary and learning how to put shows together and putting ideas together. So eventually, 2018 comes, and I book my last. So like 2 years ago, actually, now I'm thinking about it, I booked my last backyard wrestling show, and John comes up to me, is the owner of Fight Club and the Pan African World Diaspora Wrestling Championship. John comes up to me and he says, "I'm thinking about starting this project. Would you help me out?" And I said, "Yeah, we'll start a team." And so we started a GoFundMe for the belt. We got the belt made, and we get a partnership with another company called C3W. And they come to us because we're going out and we're touching base with all these federations. And mind you, like I'm fresh from backyard wrestling.
What year
like,
is this now when this starts?
This is 2018 when this like idea starts. So
Right,
this
right,
is 2 years
gotcha.
ago.
Yeah.
So 2018 we have a year-long Kickstarter to get the belt. 2019 comes, and we get the belt. John shows us the belt, and we decide, okay, well, we're not going to be a Fed. We don't want to be a company. That's too much work. I don't know how to book for there try to establish all these people. Plus, it's just at this time he's also wrestling. Like he's on the indie scene. He's trying to do his thing. So we go to C3W, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, why don't we do this? You'll get 3 shows with us, and you'll get 2 tournament shows, and then the final show, and then we'll go from there. You help us out. You scratch your back, you scratch mine." And so on August 25th, 2019, the day after my birthday, 2019, they have a show, and our belt is on it, and all these other people that we had no say in were also on the show because they were talents that they had booked.
Yeah.
And so now, like, Ellsworth is on this show, and there's another guy that we don't like, and I don't want to just. I'm not trying to burn bridges here, but his name rhymes with Icken, and he was on that show, and we just don't like him. So we were like, okay, and mind you, like, we've established relationships with him already. So like we're already past like, okay, well, let's talk it out. No, we're done. So then we go, okay, well, let's refocus. We'll sit down and we'll talk to C3W about the second show. Now, John has helped this company also monetarily because we're promised 3 shows. And John's like, all right, well, I've got this money to help out. So here's this blob. You give us these 3 shows, and we'll do what we do on our side. You do what you do on your side, and we'll just put it together when come showtime. Come time for the second show, they're like, okay, well, we're done. You don't get the first show, and you're gonna get part of the second show. And John is like, well, I gave this money. And mind you, this is like not very far off from us. Me having a panel at BlurCon, and I'm talking about black wrestling, and G Postal walks the guns that block the sun. He walks those guns into my panel, and I'm like, all right, well, cool. We got an established relationship with him, whatever. You get it. And he just promotes C3W. We're trying to promote the belt. He promotes C3W. So now it's like, okay, we've already kind of stepped some boundaries, and now you're just being a habitual line stepper. So we decided, you know what? Let's run one show. Let's run one show. Since we can't get this other show, we'll use the C3W show as the final, and we'll run our show just to have the stopgap. So to tell the story. One-off show. We had no plans to keep going. We'll book it in October. And so we tell C3W, and they're like, okay, cool. You do that, and we'll help you too. We'll throw some money at you. We'll get a ring at you. We'll bring our audio equipment. Like, we'll really help you out. So I said, all right, cool. So as the time grows closer, John is not getting in contact with the people at C3W. They're ghosting them. And John is like, all right, you know what? Well, if we're going to put this show together, we're going to have to do it ourselves. We're going to have to brand it as something. So he brainstormed for a while, and our designer, I believe, came up with HIAC Club Pro Wrestling. And we deciphered it and came up with what the name meant to us and how we would portray this product. And so again, though, this is supposed to be a one-off thing because even though we're like, okay, we need the branding, we have got this relationship with C3W. Well, eventually, as the show goes closer, we don't get their ring, we don't get their music, we don't get their money. They have stopped texting John altogether. As a matter of fact, we end up getting a text from him the day after the show saying that his grandmother was in the hospital and that's the reason why he ghosted us. But also, he then 6 months later fired us and gave us a termination letter that was dated 4 days or 2 days before the show date that he was supposed to help us out with. But I digress. So we were going to finish do this product, and we have the first show. And we sell, I think, 44 tickets, and the main event is Mr. Grimm versus Freddie Yehai, and we have a blast. Like, all my friends are there. There's some people that I don't know that are there, and like people that are like just word of mouth, just straight up word of mouth. Like, we're having a show in a month. It's in DC. Here's some tickets, which I'll try and do. And people showed up, and we run that first show, and we're like, okay, well, let's try this again, but let's put some more thought into it. And then it just came into, okay, well, is this something that we want to do permanently? Do we want to be an actual federation? And I love to say that Fight Club was made out of love and spite. And that's love of people who shouldn't be in positions because of the way their views and how awful their views are and how awful the things they've done, but also in spite of that because we want to prove that you can promote wrestling without being a piece of shit, because we've dealt with pieces of shit before. So we know what it's like on that end. And we also know what it's like to deal with pieces of shit because we're young people of color who have dealt with that all our lives. And so let's make this an inclusive place and let's keep this going. And we just decided to keep going, and that's how Fight Club came to pass.
It's funny because I'm on wrestling social media a lot, probably too much, especially nowadays.
Same.
Yeah, no, I know. We have purposely crossed paths many times.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we want to mention that first one, but it had to do with Nyla Rose. We'll talk about that later.
Well, we can mention anything. I'm down.
It started there. But it was like, for me, because, involved with Nova, and then that was gone, which we won't talk about in this one. And then Prime Time was there, which we won't talk about that at the end of that one. Well, we might. But it was like you guys weren't there, and then all of a sudden you were there. And everybody that I have been bridging relationships with in the last 2 years were talking about you and getting other people to talk about you guys. And it was sudden. And then pandemic. But that's cutting the Shorey story.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, you're absolutely right though. Like we like I said, our first show we sold like 44 tickets, and that might be off. I might be off by like 10 either way, like up or down. But like our first show didn't do that great. And we put it out for free on YouTube, so like people could see it because we thought that was the road to go. We didn't have the IWTV thing yet. And so we just decided, though, like, you know what? If 44 people are going to watch this, if 44 people are going to pay to see this, if we can keep this below our means, fuck it. We're going to entertain these 44 people, and we're going to put it on YouTube. And at least we're going to say that we were able to put on a cool product that blocked all that other bullshit that didn't need to be there.
First of all, again, just to cut to the chase. The chase. I can't speak tonight. Good luck, Dan. It's every night, really. This is the most gorgeous wrestling title belt, in my opinion. The Pan-African Championship, I believe I'm getting the name right.
Yes.
The most beautiful title belt in independent. It's top 10 in wrestling right now, as far as active titles. Certainly beats the pants off of the TNT Championship. But this most gorgeous belt. Well, that's true, yes. But it's one of the most beautiful title belts I've ever seen. And that's when I started also noticing people going, well, that belt's kind of, what's this belt from?
Yeah.
Searching you out. It was literally an image that people found, It was so fun to watch that get retweeted over and over again when that belt was first taken a picture of.
Yeah, even for me. So just to talk about how that belt came to creation, I always will say that I am the least talented person how many of us are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 7 of us. I'm the least talented of the 7. Like, John is an incredible author. He has books out. He has a comic book out. He's an animator. He has an incredible job. Latif, who is the person that designed the belt, is an illustrated author. He's an author. He's got books out. Tyreek is an insane gamer. He has a job that is incredibly taxing, and he's still able to do this. Jamila ran a company similar to the way I did, and she was out booking churches on her own and doing all that stuff for these shows. Seraphat is going to school to be an engineer while he's doing all this stuff. Like, his semester just ended today. I am by far and away the least talented. I just get really high and say this wrestler should fight this wrestler, and it'd be cool. Like, I am the least talented of the 7. So
what ironic irony! I'm the least talented on this show. Listen, getting high and just making decisions is better than a lot of bookers. Okay, just saying.
We throw these ideas out there and let's do it and see if it works.
I'm going to get a picture of the belt up here. So just to make a long story short, you guys are running and will be running. I saw the tweet. I was trying not to bury the lead, but you will be coming back soon, it looks like.
A little bit sooner than, like not extra soon, but we've got some stuff that we've just talked about that we're lining up for once we believe herd immunity should start, once people hopefully, cross your hearts, dot your eyes, please, hopefully, please, get the vaccine, then we can start moving forward and doing some cool stuff again.
All right, before we go on, I want to do this real quick.
Okay.
I want to show everybody the belt, and because it's not a perfect system, it takes a second.
That's fine.
Go, boom! There we go. I'm going to make that the spotlight video. Look at that. Look at that. Craig, do you see
Prettier
that?
than I'll ever
I
be.
do. I love it.
Just not only what it stands for, man, but that green background is
Yeah.
fucking fire.
The detail is amazing.
Love it.
Well done, Chris.
I have nothing to do with that. Latif Reed designed the belt, and he did an amazing job. Belts by Dan is, I believe, who actually molded the belt.
I was about to say, Belts by Dan is like, Craig. It's Reggie
Park's quality.
Yeah, it's who Reggie Park. It's the heir apparent. He is the heir apparent to, or they
That
are.
thing is heavy, man. That thing is not light at all.
Well, that's what a good belt should be. It should be heavy.
Yeah, no, it is. Let me tell you something. You know, like when you used to get hit with the Intercontinental title, and okay, he got hit with the Intercontinental title, and he's out for something. If you get hit with this Pan African belt, you'll be asleep for a couple days.
Okay.
That's what it should be. It should be heavy.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's heavy as all outdoors.
It's called the 10 pounds of gold for a reason.
I think it might be a little bit more than that.
Okay.
Just being honest.
It's called the 50 pounds of gold for a reason.
It might be, honestly. It's like carrying around a small child.
Okay.
Well, it depends. If it's if it's a small child like me, it's very heavy. Thank you. Hey. Wah, wah, wah. Your current, that's the other thing about this championship. It is not a men's belt. It is a title belt, period. And the purple flavor. First of all, purple flavored trash. Perp in the chat says, "Who cares about burning bridges? What have you done for me lately?" Kind of thing. And I said, "Well, hold on." And the other thing, and they just mentioned Trish, the champion, Trish Adora.
Mm-hmm.
What a champion! I have, as Perp says, she gangsta. I have seen her wrestle men, women, in mixed, triple. I can't talk. My God, triple threat matches. I'm sorry. I was watching Sting be old on TV. Triple threat matches.
God,
one of the what happened? What'd you say?
No, nothing. This is not a Sting slander podcast.
Listen. I was a little stinger. I am a sting mark. But even he came out the other day and I said, okay.
Sting
sure.
is 127 years old. I have no desire to see him on my TV at all, none whatsoever.
We'll be getting into that in a second. There's very few companies taking, which is what we're talking about today, where it is convictions and accountability and actually putting money where your mouth is, where Fight Club Pro is absolutely doing that. Trish Adora is the champion, period. Not the woman's champion, not the man's champion, period. And everybody can challenge for it. Any walk of life, any color, any sexuality. Like, this company is what the future of wrestling is going to have to be if it wants to survive, because right now it's on fire, which we'll be talking about in a second.
It is a burning building. Yeah, we had the goal that we didn't want divisions. There is no such thing as intergender wrestling. It's wrestling, because making a match intergender or saying intergender wrestling is putting such an unfair box on the match itself. Because if you just announce that this person is facing this person, you don't inherently believe that things that may have been fed to us as wrestling fans over the generations of watching televised wrestling where women are inferior to men, that's not how it should be. And also, on top of that, it's not even accounting for people who are non-binary. So why would we put things in a box when we could just say this person is wrestling this person, and it's going to be a dope as fuck match? I'm pretty sure you'd rather watch that than if I labeled man A versus woman B in a intergender match, which screams special attraction. Every match is a special attraction because who's in it, not the label you put on it. And that's the mindset that we have. Wrestling is already an abstract enough idea because wrestling could be anything in what you want it to be in the constructs of wrestling. It sounds redundant, I know. Just get really high and think about what I said. I promise you it will make sense. But wrestling doesn't deserve to be in a box. And we believe that we're like the Taco Bell of wrestling. Like, don't put it in a bun. Wrestling doesn't deserve to be in a bun.
Yes, you spoke to the fat kid. Yeah.
I mean, well.
Wow. Hey, technically we're
I'm a little portly.
No. That's like when trolls go, "Okay, fatty." I'm like, "Oh yeah, did you think?" Whoa! Wow! Mind blowing.
I'm eating as you type that.
Yeah, I was having 13 cookies as you were insulting me, and I don't give a fuck.
Squidward said I've heard better comebacks from a turkey sandwich, and I've kept that in the arsenal for about 17 years now.
Oh man, I'm stealing that one. I'm just letting you know. Craig, before do you have anything you wanted to ask before we move on?
No, Chris. It's just it's great to hear your story. I had no idea this even existed. So you've made a new fan, and hopefully you've made some more, because I admire your story. I really appreciate what you're doing and how you're looking at wrestling outside of the box. It's so it is 2020. I can't believe I have to keep saying that when it comes to certain wrestling mores and wrestling tropes, but something had to change on the heels of the Negro Leagues. The Negro Leagues actually being part of Major League Baseball now, and in a ruling that came down this afternoon.
I have such a problem with that, by the way, but I'm not going to get too much into it.
No,
but
I want you to. No, I want you to after Craig's finished, because I had a comment, and then I'm going right back to you about that. Go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to finish my compliment for you, Chris, on what you do.
I'm so sorry.
On what you're doing and what you've done with professional wrestling. And hopefully what you continue to do once this pandemic goes away and we can go back to the normal, and we get more than 44 people to come to your events to fight wrestling.
Yeah, we had standing room in February, which was so weird to me. Like, you could hear me on commentary, like marking out the fact that we had people. who decided to stand and watch the show because there were no seats available. It was nuts.
The best thing a wrestling promoter could say, no matter how big the building is, as long as you're not in a closet, which you couldn't have a wrestling match in a building that small anyway. But if you could say standing room, you're getting bigger. You know, that's a great thing you could be able to say.
Yeah, it was really just weird. Like, and it happened throughout the show. Like, I wear many hats at Fight Club. We all do. Like, there's no, I'm not the booker. We're all the booker because we all just sit there and come up with ideas. So on a typical Fight Club show, John will be in the back doing John things, and what John things entail is just walking up and down and physically putting people where he wants them. Like, it's just. He's an intimidating human being because he'll just walk around and we'll see him coming at commentary and it's like, oh God, what does he want? Because it's just something is either terribly wrong or something went really right and he wants us to know. And it's kind of cool just that there's nothing fancy about our operation. And so then me, Seraph, and Tyreek are on commentary, but we're also manning the camera. We're manually hitting the phone that we're doing commentary on, so we're manually pushing play on the camera and then pushing record on the iPhone or whatever phone we're using to record commentary, and syncing it up and then going for it. It's just a weird operation. So for us to be as mom and pop as we are, and for people like Lowe or people like Seahawk or people who have a platform and just have decided to say, hey, you guys should check this out for whatever reason, I'm eternally grateful because as that show went on, the building filled up. And then you could see in the main event that there were people, literally, my favorite part of this is that there were people who were sitting on one particular near fall and then everyone stood up and I'm like, oh, wow, we are very close to the fire code here. Like, I'm pretty sure, I hope no one has the little counter thing and is clicking people for everyone they see while they watch this video, because this is definitely an OSHA violation.
You know, somebody was trying.
Yeah, like, just click, 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 that's a family, click, 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 and they're just like, just making sure that they get the number to know that we're over capacity.
Trust me, Chris, I grew up with a man who would have done that. Actually, Craig and I both did.
But actually, I think I did too. I think my dad is very anal retentive about stuff like that.
Well, my dad was also a firefighter and a fire marshal. So
mine was in the Navy. Like, we're in the same boat.
Whenever we go into a room to this day, and this is a man who's been retired, which is a forced retirement. Long story, not for this podcast. But he's been retired, and he had a stroke a year and a half ago, but he will still walk into a room and go, "That's not code. That's not code. That's not code. There's too many people in this room." I'm like, Dad, will you chill out for having us? He does it all the time. Real quick before we move on, guys.
I need to be made aware of this.
Real quick, let's. Craig, I'm going to start with you real quick. The baseball thing. You mentioned the Negro Leagues being, I'm going to air quote it, told that they're major leagues and it counts now by the Major League Baseball. How do you feel about that? Because I have an answer, and I have a feeling Chris is along the line of mine.
I have my foot firmly placed in both camps as a longtime advocate of Negro Leagues. My grandfather attended many Negro League games when there was a Philadelphia Stars team here in Philadelphia, and actually took my mom to see Jackie Robinson's first game here in Philadelphia.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
But he would regale me with tales of Negro League players that mainstream people have never heard of, and probably never will hear of before this day. The Negro Leagues were part of that, because he'd always said that the players that he saw play were just as good, if not better, than the major league players that he saw. So for them getting that recognition in that way, long overdue. If their numbers count, then you'll see a whole big changes in the all-time record books in major leagues. So that I'm proud of. On the other hand, I do believe that it was kind of like Nike kind of forcing their hand, because they came out with a series of clothing with Negro League that had the Nike swoosh on it, but the Negro League jerseys that had the Nike swoosh on it, the Nike brand on it, and so they just got out in front of it as much as they could to say, oh, by the way, we're also going to make the Negro Leagues part of the major leagues now. So I see that also as a money grab. It's still a very hollow gesture that is happening now in 2020 when it could have just as easily happened in 1980. And when Hank Aaron was inducted into the Hall of Fame, because he was probably the greatest Negro League ball player, a player from the Negro Leagues to play in them in the major leagues, quote unquote. It could have been done much earlier. So that's why my foot is in both camps. At one hand, I'm very proud. On the other hand, it's like, wow, you're throwing us. I feel like the Indians that got the pox-covered blankets at from the settlers. It's like, I thank you, question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't elaborate because I'm the white guy here, but the way it was worded by everybody was finally being recognized. I'm like, oh, thanks, white man. Oh, that's great. Hey, everybody, man, Fred said it was okay.
Yeah, that's my fundamental problem. Actually, is that this league that has been telling you that this league is not on the same brand as Major League Baseball has just suddenly decided that you know what, black people, we do think you were good enough to be in our record books. Like, this is nothing more than to make white people feel good and feel better about not being the white people that they were before. Like, the entire statement. The entire statement is worded like, you know what? We said that you weren't up to the standard of Major League Baseball, and we said that you weren't good enough to be in our record books, and we weren't good enough to recognize you. But you know what? 2020 is a new day. We, as collective white people, have decided that you, Negro Leagues, and by the way, we very almost fumbled that first N word, but you, the Negro Leagues, are good enough to be amongst us whites. Round of applause. All right.
Hey,
We have settled that. Next on the docket, Cleveland Indians. Okay, here we go.
You know what? You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, and this is something that, obviously is long overdue. And I've mentioned this even on our very own podcast.
You and I have talked about it like several times on our shows. We've talked about that league.
From 1948 to 1959, from the time Jackie Robinson was brought into the National League, for that 11-year period, 9 players from the Negro Leagues won the MVP. So 9 out of those 11 years, those awards were won by black ball players. Don Newcomb was the very first Cy Young Award winner. First, he was black. Jackie Robinson, very first Rookie of the Year, he was black. Don Newcomb, still the only person to ever win Rookie of the Year, Most Valuable Player, and Cy Young Award in his career. Guess what? He was black.
And you had to tell me about it.
Yeah, and I'm probably telling more than one person about it, just hearing it for the first time now, Dan.
Yeah. What? Who?
Yeah, and I made, and the other part of that, and we talked about Jackie Robinson and Josh Gibson, the differences, why one was taken and why it wasn't. Go ahead, Dan. You got your
no, this is the after you finished finger. No pun intended.
Well, they talked about, we talked about character, because you playing devil's advocate, why was Jackie Robinson picked and why Josh Gibson wasn't, for the great experiment. Two quick stories about both men, about character and how people saw African Americans then. Jackie Robinson was in the Army, and he was court-martialed. He was on an Army bus, on an Army base, and he wouldn't give up his seat to a civilian white woman. Okay, so he was forcibly removed from the bus. He was court-martialed. He argued his own case, and he won. Okay, so that was the first time Branch Rickey and took notice and said, okay, we're going to get him a black ball player, but we're going to get this one because not only does he have the strength not to fight back, but he's got the character, and he defended himself using his words and not his fists. So that's where we're going to go with Jackie Robinson. While that was happening, Josh Gibson, who some would say the Black Babe Ruth, was in the Negro Leagues playing. And they're barnstorming, so they're going all on the road all the time. Well, apparently on this particular day before a game, someone had put roadkill or a dead something in Josh Gibson's locker. He didn't like that. So Josh Gibson picked up a bat and walked to the entrance of the clubhouse and said, "Whoever put that on my locker, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. If nobody comes forward, I'm beating the shit out of all of you."
All of you.
Oh, and the bat, that's for you. Because I'm going to hand you the bat and I'm going to beat the shit out of you because I want it to be a fair fight. So that's why Josh Gibson and this is his black teammates, okay? Imagine if Josh Gibson gets called up and one of his white teammates or opposing coach or opposing player.
I was going to bring up Dick Allen.
Yeah.
The only reason why we have not been talking about him, and I had a conversation with friends of mine where when he died, I sent them the link of Dick Allen passing away, and somebody said, and the only reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame because of his attitude. I was like, oh, what was his attitude? Black? Was that his attitude? Because the reason the Phillies didn't put him in the Wall of Fame was because somebody dropped the word on him in the locker room, and instead of sitting by, because it was a big star that dropped this word, and I don't think we've ever been told who it was. But he went after that guy in the locker room, and it was a him or me, and they sent Dick out of here. That's why the Phillies waited that long to add him to the Wall of Fame, right before he died. That's awesome. Hey, but thanks, Manfred. Sorry, Chris.
And the player, he got into a fight when he first got onto the team. I apologize for looking because I had the name of the player who.
Oh, they do name the player.
Yeah, who hit Dick Allen with a bat during the fight, and this was a guy who would always
he probably needed to, quote unquote.
But he was a guy who was always. Frank Thomas, not the Frank Thomas we know.
Yeah, the other Frank Thomas.
Yeah, the player, the white Frank Thomas, who was a bully and it said some racial and insensitive things. Got into a fight with Dick Allen in the clubhouse and hit Dick Allen with the bat. Okay, and Dick Allen, fought him back, and it was under the orders of the Phillies not to say anything to the press. If you say anything to the press, you get fined. Okay, they fired Frank Thomas. They got rid of him. So because the Phillies weren't supposed to talk about it, Frank Thomas got to tell his story to anyone who would listen. So they only got, and then that's when everyone hated Dick Allen because to them, he cost a white man his job.
Oh.
Yeah. And because they only heard Frank Thomas's side of the story, so Dick Allen was mouthy, is out of sorts, and, the same stuff they said about Josh Gibson earlier on, but so that's why Dick Allen got that reputation from defending himself from a bully who hit him with a baseball bat. And it got so bad that he had to wear his batting helmet when he played first or third base from the amount of people that were fans that were throwing stuff at him while he was trying to play. But through it all, he did what he did best, was play baseball. And he won the MVP, was Rookie of the Year, and I tell folks I had an argument with a Mets fan. We're talking about who had the greatest collapse in baseball history, the Phillies in 1960 or the Mets in 2007. So when the Phillies were up by 6 games with 12 to go and they blew that lead and they lost 10 games in a row, in those 10 games, Dick Allen batted .403, and he was a rookie, okay? So I wanted to say, Dick Allen was saying, I'm doing what I can. I don't know what you white motherfuckers are doing, but I'm hitting. So I don't know what your problem is.
Dick Allen seemed like he'd be that cool, though. I don't know what you guys are doing.
How much time motherfucker got going on, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly. And Dick Allen was the first black player in the Phillies minor league system. And the Phillies had a minor league team in Little Rock, Arkansas, of all places. And Dick Allen was their first black player there. And there was protests about him being on that team. And all he did during his 1 year with that minor league team was lead the entire minor leagues in total bases.
That's all.
Because of
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Some slight.
I'll end this about Dick Allen with this. Everybody he passed, and everybody's like, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Why? You know, he was like, he was a 7-time All-Star, and the only guy, who's the one guy? There's only like 3 guys ahead of him, and oh god, I forgot the list. I meant to bring up the list when I talked about it, and I never did. But there are like 2 big names ahead of him, and it's the only 2 that year, and it was like Hank Aaron and.
Well, one of the Philly scout who brought him up, who got to see baseball players from both leagues play. He said the only person he ever saw hit a ball harder than Dick Allen was Babe Ruth.
That's okay. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He
did it without batting gloves. That's the last thing I'm going to say.
He did it without batting gloves? Now, that's just nuts, okay? Because that hurts. Which brings me to get back on track with wrestling. I'm sorry. We weren't ever going to talk about it.
This is fine with me. I love this.
You got to come back on more often. I don't care. Like I told you, once I get past that one part of anxiety, you're not going to get rid of me unless I piss you off. Like,
yeah, I don't care.
The accountability. Let's just say, Craig, you know, because you grew up in the same area. White boy here did a lot of growing up in South Jersey, and did a lot of learning. And I said stupid shit when I was a kid. I said racist, sexist, stupid shit when I was younger. And I grew up because, A, it's wrong. On a basic level, it's wrong. B, that's not how the world works. And C, you learn about yourself. And you learn about other people and other cultures where you go, well, wait, that's a stupid thing to say. Why would no? We're the same. We're all we're all humans. It doesn't matter. And learning to pay the receipts when you have to say sorry when you say something stupid, like I did in high school. It was a big deal to him. It was a big deal to me. It's not earth shattering. But it was something we all had to grow up and deal with, which is something that seems to be missing in wrestling. There seems to be very little accountability for shitty people in wrestling. And I'm not, and again, you're allowed to fuck up and actually learn from your mistake or your, what's the word I'm looking for, Craig?
Your transgression.
Doing something stupid, transgression, from learning from transgression,
Mm-hmm.
paying the receipt, and getting better.
Yeah.
You're absolutely allowed to redeem yourself. It's not my job to say when you've been redeemed, or it's the people who are involved. It's their job to say you've been redeemed. Like, go on. Wrestling is. I alluded to it earlier. Wrestling is on fire. You may not be able to redeem. You may not be able to redeem yourself because it isn't up to you, but it's imperative you try to be better. That is exactly the very good point, Perp. I'm glad you said that. That is, whether you're to be forgiven is not your decision, but whether you really try to be a better person is all up to you. And there seems to be a lot of that missing in wrestling. And it's been a slow build in the years I've been involved because not on a race level for obvious reasons, but I've been involved with some shitty people doing shitty things and been on the other side of it. I've had friends had guns pulled on them for wrestling. I've had lives threatened. I've had doxing take place. A lot of crappy things happen. I haven't been doxed, but I have a couple. Try. No, I mean, but in the beginning of this year, there was a real camaraderie that started happening in the DC area, and especially with Chris, you're upside down. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I'm trying. I have a phone stand and it's being weird, so I'm just gonna hold it.
Sorry,
I'll try to be slick about it. And I'm the least slick person on earth.
It would have been funny talking all sincerely when you're.
That would have been a soundbite for the podcast. It's me.
There was a lot of camaraderie happening in DC wrestling, and there was also a lot of issues, and in independent in general. But my point is when the pandemic happened, a lot of things started coming out. A lot of boiling finally went over, and a lot of things started coming out. And what I'm unfortunately seeing is a lot of people just moving on and continuing again. And it's kind of like on a wider scale, as you mentioned, the show coming up soon and the vaccine and everybody getting back to normal. And Craig earlier mentioned normal. And I'm like, I don't really want to go back to normal, where we just go, oh, it's fine. He molested a couple people. Oh, he raped her. It's fine. Come on back in. It's fine. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Joey Ryan. Kiss my ass. I'm seeing a lot of that. You mentioned a company earlier, and a gentleman that you and I had separate run-ins with. Yours in person, mine over the internet. I won. Small victory, but
win the win.
What happened?
A win's a win.
Yeah. Well, man, if you block me and you're the sexist homophobic idiot, it's not my. I didn't lose that argument. I'm just saying. Yeah. What's your take on things? More, not only locally, but in general. There's just a lot of. I think a lot of people hashtagged speaking out to be cool on social media. Quite frankly, I got suspended for defending somebody, and it's like, what am I trying for? Nobody else gave a shit. What's the fucking point anymore?
So I'll tell you a really brief story, right? So I moved to DC when I was 15, and I went to my dad's, and the next day I woke up and he said, you need to learn the neighborhood. So go to the store and get me, I forget what I was getting, honestly. But I go outside and I said, okay. And I start walking. I put on my Walkman. I get to this alley and it's six people, six dudes around me. And me being, me, I'm 15. I think I'm invincible. I just keep walking. Those six people beat me the fuck up. There were six people. I was clearly walking through them. I feel like I made it a point. I might have made it a point to walk through them, but I don't think there was a way like around them. But I walked right through them. And my second day in DC, I got beat the fuck up. And what happened is that was clearly their block. I was new there. I didn't know anything. And I decided to walk through a group of six niggas. My actions had consequences. And from that point forward, I knew that if I see a collective of niggas posted up on a block or an alley or a curb or anywhere, I'm not going past them because I have learned my lesson. Now, I'm not suggesting we going around beating niggas the fuck up in indie wrestling, although I am suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that publicly, although that is my solution to everything, is that we find these people and we give them some consequences to their actions, because that's obviously what they need, because they can't learn anything without obvious and clear consequences, which in my opinion should be beating them the fuck up. But there is no
position to agree with the cosign, but I do cosign. You know what I mean?
I mean, there has to be something. These people are being wrong, and not in some cases they're leaving and going to do other things that have nothing to do with wrestling, and so that audience has no idea what they've done. In some instances, they just go right back into wrestling. And Brian Pillman Jr., like a month ago, was in somebody's DMs protecting an abuser, and that nigga was on AEW Dark last week.
He's literally on TV right now.
He's on. Oh my! I am Negro Damas. All right, Paul Mooney on TV right now, and he was just being an abuse denier. Like, oh, I know this person. He couldn't do this. No, I had a really good friend who turned out to be a piece of shit person, and we don't talk to that nigga no more. You know why? Because we don't associate with pieces of shit people. But You have those people that allow those people back into the culture or allow those people back into circles. And when you normalize people in circles, eventually that's going to wear down, right? So if Brian Pillman, for example, if people know that he's a piece of shit person, right? And the other half either know or don't care, eventually that other half will smooth over the half that care. So that way it's acceptable for that to go on.
Give you an example, and this is not earth-shattering because I mentioned it 100 times, but this is going to flow right into what you just said. Do you know of Sami Callihan?
Yes.
Do you know why I hate the man?
Please tell.
Okay. A friend of mine who was a wrestler, Chrissy Rivera, was married to him at one point. Long story short, he was an abusive fuck. There was a lot of other mental and physical things that went on. Long story short, she's moved on. Her life is much better, obviously. Wonderful marriage. Not involved in shitty wrestling right now. Happier in their life without him. But this guy did it in the locker room and out of the locker room. And that's it. Well, then what happened? Nothing happened. Nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, it was best man at DJ High's wedding, which, that figures. That was his consequence. So don't go around here. Don't go near him with any bathroom doors or trash cans.
I bet.
So I would mention it because I don't give a fuck if he's mad. There's a lot of people in wrestling I'm scared of. The walking trash bag's not one of them. And I'm not going to out the other podcasts because I don't have anything against them. We're not at odds. I have not a mean word to say about who mentioned this, but I just thought about it the other day, and it was a slap in as I was suspended on Twitter for defending somebody and on Facebook in a week, Chris, in 1 week, both platforms. Apparently, it's okay to post memes about hanging people in trees and promising the old times and Black Lives Matter or all race. That's okay, but calling him white trash is a suspendable offense. Fine. Okay, sure.
I got suspended 30 days for saying I got suspended for Facebook 30 days for saying the N-word that someone else was not saying, and they were doing the ampersand or asterisk. And I just said, just say nigga like you want to. Or say nigger like you want to.
Yeah,
and that got me a 30-day ban.
Of course. Did they check your profile? Probably not.
They did. They did.
Wow.
They did.
My point.
They always do. I love it though.
Of course. Because it's the internet thing. You know, I just kind of I gave you an example about that a little bit. You ain't gonna get me through the internet. Oh, you can get got. I'd watch that if I were you. But like I said, if Sammy catches me, whatever. I don't. Come on, buddy.
Well, here's the thing about me, right? And I'm very much in the camp of if I see something, say something.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed or what I've just come to the terms in is that I live in the world of professional wrestling, right? And noticing how the trends in the landscape of professional wrestling is, ain't none of these niggas finna fight me. And if they did try to fight me, they can't whoop me. So what they gonna do? Come and run up on the show and ask for discourse? No, run them hands or keep it moving. Oh, I would like to have a debate on Twitter about your stance on this. No,
fuck your Twitter debate.
Come wreck me.
Fuck yourself.
And if you're not gonna come wreck me, shut up about it, and I'm gonna keep spitting. And if I'm wrong, call me out on being wrong. But if there's clear stuff going on and I'm pointing it out and you're upset that I'm pointing it out, it's your homeboy, come see these hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's your problem, not mine. Well,
what I got to do with that? I don't book for y'all. I'm not here to make friends with people who are abusive or promote abusers or do shitty things behind people's back or have shitty business practices. I'm not here for that. I'm here to make friends with people who are good people and promote good wrestling. And if you got a problem with me speaking out because you've done shitty things, run them hands. Come check my fade, nigga. Otherwise, calm it down.
I was letting you
I'm a
have that
grown
moment.
man.
It was a good moment.
I'm a grown man from Southeast Washington, D.C., which is one of the most inclusive places in the world, high key. We don't care who you are. We don't care what you look like. We don't care where you're from. We love everybody. But there's a certain rule and code of conduct that you have to run by. You don't do shitty things to shitty people. You don't do things behind people's back. And when you're confronted on them, you accept the consequences or you get dealt with. And that's how I approach professional wrestling. If you do shitty things, you either are held accountable or you're dealt with. And if you get upset because I call it out, and you get upset because I call out hypocrisies in pro wrestling, or I call out things that aren't cool in pro wrestling, or when I'm calling out GCW, asking them why they need to free themselves when they're cis hetero white men and don't need freedom from anything because they live in the country of the United States, which is made for white people, come check me. And if you're not going to come check me, block me, because it's not over.
I find it interesting that the business, because, you know, after this, we're going to do the wrestling historian part with Craig, where he just talked about things that happened in this week in wrestling in the past. And it always amazes me what we're talking about now. And then let me finish the first part of the story, the part of accountability I was talking about, which you put much more eloquently than I could. Much. I'm not even sure why I'm here. The business that prided itself on checking receipts in the old days in ring, right, is the same business where the guy who's accused of raping 6 people is suing those people. What? Wait, what? The second part of my story, to add to what you're saying, Chris, is that podcast, again, we're cool. I'm not going to out them because they didn't do anything wrong, but that next week, the last time we talked about it years ago, the Sam Callahan being a fucking douchebag thing, they said, well, like these guys in HIAC that mentioned Sammy Callahan beating up his wife, and in the next breath goes, but I like Sammy Callahan, so anyway.
You know what? I guess Aaron Hernandez was a pretty good tight end, wasn't he?
O.J. Simpson is one of the greatest running backs in the history of
That's
the
what I'm
NFL.
saying. That's what I'm saying. You know what? Like, what are we doing here? Are we? Is that who we are? Fabulous Moolah was pretty. No, we don't do that.
No, she's a piece of shit. She's dead now. Pat Patterson did some shitty things, and he's dead now.
He's dead. And he's dead.
And he doesn't care that I'm saying it. He's dead.
What's he gonna do? Come out the grave and check me?
Yeah.
No.
Well, the other thing I was gonna say about that, the answer, I was talking. This guy posted one of the most racist shit things I've ever seen about LeBron James on Twitter.
As they do, LeBron James tends to be the Martin Luther King for racist.
Yeah, the guy that puts his money where his mouth is a piece of shit. Okay, whatever. But anyway, once that boy gets his money, I'm quoting him. Once that boy gets his money held back, he's gonna go right back. Oh, did he though? No. Did they get demands met? Yes. It's not a large step in the right direction, but it was a step. But I told him, A, what you posted was not true, and B, it's racist. And he immediately went to, well, why don't we box about it? You punching me in the face doesn't make me wrong. It makes you wrong, and you're punching me in the face.
See, here's the thing. You believe that these people run by these things called facts. They do not.
No.
In their word, opinions outweigh facts tenfold.
It's mind-boggling to see. And another thing is like, well, you're just a social justice warrior. I'm coming at you for real. I am not a character on Twitter. I don't know how to be a character. That's why I'm not a wrestler. Well, among other things, but you get my point.
Yeah.
This is not bullshit. You like to work people on Twitter. This is not work, guys. This is it.
I don't think the term social justice warrior is such an insult as people think it is. I'm a social justice warrior. I'll beat the shit out you. I'm a warrior about it. I'm a proud social justice warrior.
The guy that you and I had issues with separately that likes to carry his gun while he's putting the ring up. I'm like, I don't care. You bring your gun, dude. I'll bring 3 other guys. Like, it's cool.
He had discourse with me, and then he took it to Instagram Live, and then I followed him to Instagram Live, and I tried to get in the live, and they kept blocking me. And I was in the comments telling him, and eventually he got told by his boss to stop doing it, even though he kept doing it. And I've offered to fight him, but he won't do it. So.
Well, also, the guy wanted me to fly to Canada to box him in a pandemic. I'm like, I can't get into your country, you fucking moron.
Yeah, let me. You know what? Give me a 6-week training camp.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna box, provide me with my money. What's my show purse? So I'm flying to Canada for the box.
I asked for money. He goes, "You want money now? This is for charity." No, fuck you. Pay me if we're gonna box.
Box.
We're
Put
gonna
on your gloves. Just make sure they're 6-inch gloves. You gotta get there for the weigh-in. No.
Here's what pissed him off. Right? He called a professional hockey player a pussy. He did, and I mentioned, well, why don't you just sit there and call more hockey players pussies? Which turned into me calling him a pussy because he can't read. That's not my problem. But then if you cut to a couple weeks later, I heard, because I saw it kind of transpire on Twitter, and then I heard what happened was he went to a friend of mine and said what my problem was, and that friend said, "No, you're the idiot here." And then he started talking about another hockey player, and that hockey player responded.
Oh.
Now, if you guys haven't, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Federal Hockey League.
Yes,
but it's okay. So it's low level. It's disrespectful to call them goons. It's a lot of fighting. There's some skill. It's a mix of skill and fighting. There's no in between. And the guy he was talking trash on was a guy who played more games than this guy. Like, this guy dipped his toe into hockey once. This guy was a minor league. He played in the AHL, the IHL, the Federal Hockey League. He played games in the NHL, and he got involved, and that dude disappeared from Twitter.
Oh, because consequences for their actions are the kryptonite to people with opinions like that. They need consequences, which, again, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but if that dead horse was the consequences, it would definitely learn because I beat it, which is, I think, what we should do to these people. We should beat them up. We should just start beating them up. But, again, not everybody is the type of person to go out and beat people up. And I understand that, but if we were, we wouldn't be dealing with as much of this as we do.
If it was old school, first of all, it was old school wrestling. It wouldn't be so bright and white.
Yeah.
What was the Craig? What was the year that? What was the state and the year that you told me the first African American match even took place? It was like in 60 something, wasn't it?
1963.
63.
Terry Anderson took on Bobo Brazil in Tampa, Florida, which is the first time in the history of wrestling in Tampa that a black man wrestled another black man. And it was in 1963.
How racist do you have to be where you won't even let a black man wrestle another black man?
And it was 3 years later in 1966 when Len Rossi, who passed away earlier this year, teamed up with Bearcat Brown to form the first ever interracial tag team in the history of Tennessee. So in Tennessee, they just got integrated thanks to Sputnik Monroe, so black fans could sit alongside white fans and not up in the crow's nest, which was named that because of the amount of black people up there, not because of...
By the way, I just learned that the other day when you told me that. It's like, I didn't know that was a racist term.
Yeah, because they kept the black people as far away from possible, so they called it the crow's nest because, black is a crow. But in Memphis, they just started having the black fans sit alongside white fans, but a black wrestler still couldn't wrestle a white wrestler, and let alone team up with one until Len Rossi. So that was again 1966. This is all during the civil rights period that all these major leaps were happening with African American wrestlers. But
you say how racist do you have to be to let two black people wrestle each other? That would mean that you would have to put one of those black people over. And you know how adverse that wrestling is to putting black people over. So
well, and what was so interesting about it, Chris, was that one of the wrestlers was This is 1963. One of the wrestlers was Bobo Brazil. A year earlier, he was recognized as the NWA heavyweight champion. He had beaten Buddy Rogers in a match that Rogers couldn't continue, and it was a forfeit, and they awarded the match and the title to Bobo Brazil. Bobo wouldn't take it, but still half of the National Wrestling Alliance recognized Bobo Brazil as the NWA heavyweight champion, the biggest title in all of professional wrestling. This is before the WWF even existed. So there are enough people that and the NWA had enough confidence in Bobo Brazil, A, as champion, and B, because he was a draw and people paid to see him. So he was and him being in that match was the only reason it would come off, because enough people knew Bobo that they would pay to see him. So if it was just two black wrestlers that, right off the bus, no, we can't have two wrestlers because nobody's going to pay to see that. But people will pay to see Bobo. So that's what made that. It just happened to be the first time that two black wrestlers ever wrestled each other in Tampa, Florida in 1963. Yeah.
Casual racism in professional wrestling.
I'm convinced now that people get mad at the terms like systemic racism, casual racism, or social justice warrior are just mad because they're getting called on it.
Yeah.
I'm convinced now. So a real question, like what do we do in wrestling? What does somebody like me at the bottom rung do? What does somebody at your position do? What can somebody like Craig do to help get this going forward? Because I'm very sincere and serious in saying wrestling's on fire and something's going to burn down, and from the ashes is going to rise, like companies like Fight Club, companies like Butch versus Gore. What can we do in the meantime while we can't be close? Do you keep the mouth going? Do you pull, what do you suggest for everybody? What can we do as wrestling fans and wrestling business get this moving forward? Because I'm frankly tired of it.
I've just been being as diligent as possible. Just making sure that if I see something, I say something. I same subway rule. If I see something that I don't think is right, just continue to bring it up. Right now, that's all we can do because we're in a pandemic, and wrestling is very much on fire. But we've got firefighters, and I think for the first time ever, we've got good firefighters. We've got us, we've got Lowe, we've got Billy Dixie, we've got Darius Lockhart, Eric Olay,
yes.
Like, we've got people who are not afraid to buck the status quo in professional wrestling, and people who are quite frankly sick of the way that professional wrestling is and are willing to change it. Sheik, people at Hood Slam, the people at Without a Cause, good people who are there to promote good people. Because eventually, I think that 3 years from now, I've thought about this in detail, and it's always been 5, but just kind of seeing the way the landscape is changing, I think it can be done in 3 years from now. We're going to be looking at this time, and it's like, okay, well, this was the real foundation of where we started to make the change in wrestling. I think that fans need to be better about checking people who are fans. I think that promoters need to create a code of conduct for their company, and that for both fans and talent to abide by, and they need to stand by that code of conduct. And that means even if your biggest draw is going against that code of conduct, you need to make an example to show that we will not stand for it. I think that people just need to be more diligent at the fact that this is something that we live in, but we can change it. And we change it by just continuing to press and press and press and press. Because it doesn't change. Very rarely does change happen silently or quietly. It always happens, at least in my opinion, as a Black person, like with violence and with fight. Same thing with just violence. Violence changes things, and I don't mean it as physically fighting people, although that is something that I very much enjoy. I just mean it by uproar and chaos, right? Nothing changes without chaos, because you can suggest it, and we can continue to suggest it. I've been suggesting that we take mustard off the McDouble for the last 10 years, but it's still on there.
Whoa,
because I'm not going to McDonald's and forcing them.
Let's not get hasty.
That's fine. But that's change. Change just doesn't happen. It happens when people are uncomfortable.
You really
You
want to
can
take
sit in
mustard?
the same spot. No, I don't hate mustard, but that's a different story.
Oh,
I hate
okay. Well,
condiments.
I
I'm not a
understand.
condiment guy.
No,
I'm just fat.
I'm a plain guy too. Yeah.
But yeah, just people being uncomfortable. You don't. If you sit in the same spot, eventually you're gonna sit in that spot until your ass cheek falls asleep. And what happens when your ass cheek falls asleep? Kind of shift a little bit because you're uncomfortable. When things are and people are uncomfortable, they move and they change. And as long as we continue to make people uncomfortable with people being diligent and speaking out and being active on making sure that these companies stick to their code of conduct, I think we can make a real change possible.
So, and there's one thing I want to add is it's okay to like something and still something I can't baffle people getting around is, well, how can you like something and still bitch about it? You can like something and want change and make it better.
That's what being a Phillies fan is all about.
Is all about it.
How dare you?
Yeah, but it's something that we love, but we know we still bitch about it all the time.
Yeah,
it's because John Middleton's an idiot. But
exactly. And Chris, to piggyback on what you said, and being part of our culture and our history, anything that we've ever gotten for us or any change that's been made was because of protests.
Yeah.
Was because of us making a lot of noise, because of us marching in the streets or sitting at lunch counters or doing a demonstration or kneeling. And it's a shame that we have to do it. We have to make people uncomfortable first for it to happen. But that's exactly what it is going to do. And people, including myself, are saying, well, the Negro Leagues are part of the major leagues now. Wow, it's 2020. There's no timetable for doing the right thing.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah. It yes could have gone sooner, but it's here now. And that's the same for any first black person. You look at not to get too political, but look at Joe Biden's cabinet now, and he's nominating this person, and a racist non-friend of mine said, I keep on hearing you saying, "Oh, this is the first black this, is the first woman that." I said, if it happened sooner, if there was as many white senators and white public transportation people, then that you never heard of them being the first white because it's so regular. If it was such a regular thing, you wouldn't have to hear this is the first woman to do this, or the first black person to do this, or the first openly gay guy to have this position.
Why does it bother this
Yeah, they just got sick of hearing. Yeah, they got sick of hearing. Oh, guy, if I have to hear this is the first black this, and one more time is the first black. I said, well, if it happened as much as white people had this position, you wouldn't have heard it.
Oh, okay. I'm sick of seeing all this stuff. I'm sick of seeing all this. Nigga, go buy some NyQuil. Because it's going to happen. You're going to keep being sick because white people have been ruling this shit for so long and they haven't given these people the opportunities. So you're going to be sick and you see the first white female, the first black person, the first black. It's 2020. We've been doing this politics shit in America since 1776. That's 220, 34 years, I think. My math might be wrong by 10 years there. But it's a lot of years. It's some generations. Not a lot of niggas been in there.
My favorite thing I see is civil rights have been around for a long time, and I immediately think of somebody like Craig, who's 50 years old, who had his family members chased with rope. This isn't something that this isn't 100 years away. This just happened, motherfucker. Don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry I'm not white enough for you.
There's a Kanye lyric I heard when I was like 15 where he's like, at the tender age of 6, his grandmother took his mom and made him sit where white people weren't supposed to want him to eat, right? And at that time, Kanye was 35, and his mom had him when she was like 21, which would make her like 57, right? So this 57-year-old woman was at the fucking sit-ins. She's 57. How do you mean social or civil rights has been so far away when a 57-year-old woman was at the sit-in.
Yeah, Martin Luther King died during my lifetime, so it wasn't that.
Shut up, old man. No, I'm kidding.
It wasn't that long ago where people said we come so far. Yeah.
We haven't come that far. We've come, you. Those are things that say to make me and other whiteys feel comfortable. We've come so far.
People don't understand that we are legit still in the first generation of like diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the very first generation of diversity.
It happened less than 20 years before I was born.
We're in it. We are in it.
This is This is it. The thing that we are literally seeing a world changing again.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, there are. This is just off the top of my head, and this is literally just going off the number of white running backs that I know. There's like 97% of people, or 97% of the people in the NFL are black, and then there's Christian McCaffrey, and then quarterbacks, right? So that league is a black league, but they still have to have a rule that says that you must interview one black person in your head coaching role if you are hiring head coaches. So you're telling me that league is so racist that before that Rooney Rule, not one nigga was being approached to be hired. But now that the league is 97% nigga, we're still going back to say you gotta hey, did you interview your nigga? Did you interview your one nigga before you hired this guy? Because if you didn't, you're gonna get fined.
Am I allowed to laugh at that?
Yeah. Well, when we start getting, and as much progress as we made, when we start getting NFL black owners, then it'll be different. And when owners aren't right-wing media or right-wing supporters, then it will be different. Like a majority of the people that own wrestling companies now are right-wing supporters.
That's why I don't get involved with that like wrestling, that Wednesday wrestling talk when they're like, oh, you watch WWF and Vince is in Trump's cabinet when Tony Khan or Shad Khan donated to Trump and like was best friends with the boy and they have business ventures together. So if we're gonna really like pick the apple at the bunch, like let's do it. Like there is no ethical way to watch pro wrestling on TV.
No.
So let's not sit here and go against the people for what they watch.
Go ahead, Craig.
And if you ever listen to any of the Young Bucks podcasts,
the ethics part.
Those are two of the biggest right-wing conspiracy nuts you could ever hear. And don't get me started on their anti-Obama rants or anything.
Who? Young Bucks?
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I care that much about them.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I was forced to hear it. Yeah.
What was that, Chris?
That Carl Anderson and Lou Gallows call AJ Styles Republican hoot. Like that's just how far those are boys, and they're boys for a reason.
Yeah, AJ is, to his credit, isn't as bad as the Young Bucks. AJ is mostly just homophobic and still believes the Earth is flat. But the Young Bucks are in the anti-Obama,
the elite, so to speak.
I saw some the elite. Yeah, I saw somebody comment. It was Jose commented about, well, what does the born again Christian Sting think about LG? I was like, I don't want to. I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
He's not a wrestler anymore. It's a sideshow. I don't want to know. Don't you ruin Sting for me.
It was, and the thing about Sting, now we didn't get a chance to talk about him last week during his debut last week because he actually debuted during an edition of HIAC Talk Radio Live, and the screenshot of Dan's face when he saw Sting should actually be my new avatar, or at least a screensaver. But we haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Well, let's do it while Chris is here. Then I have one final question about what we've been talking about. This,
I said the same. Now, when Sting debuted on AEW, it popped ratings. The first time AEW or any Wednesday night wrestling show had been over 1 million views in almost a year. Okay, so in that respect, it worked, and it got mainstream talk, ESPN. Everybody picked up on it. It was it was trending worldwide on Twitter. I think it was number 1 or 2 when it happened. But when Sting debuted on AEW and got the big pop and everything like that, and I found out that Sting was signed to AEW to at least a 3-year contract, I had the same 3 words I had when the WWE signed him, or when TNA signed him. You signed Sting to do what? He can't go anymore. He wasn't medically cleared by the WWE. Even if he wasn't cleared by the WWE, he's 62 years old and he physically can't go anymore. He's not a manager, so he's not going to walk anyone in the ring. He's not a commentator. He's not going to sit next to Tony and JR and call a match. He's not a booker. He's not a trainer. He never trained anyone. And he himself was barely trained as it was. He got on-the-job training from being in the Mid-South with Bill Watts and Ernie Ladd and Dr. Death and the Freebirds and everything else, while he wanted to get better and his partner unfortunately didn't, and why his partner sucked and why Sting turned out to be a very, very good wrestler. So my question, and I'll even put this to you, Dan, Sting is on AEW for a number of years, and I'm not knocking Sting because he did the same thing that TNA did, just give him a whole bunch of money just to be Sting, just to show up on TV. But to do what? What is AEW going to do with Sting?
Can I answer first, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free.
No, it's my show. I'm answering first. No, I'm kidding, Chris. Chris, I don't know if you know this part about me.
Okay.
The biggest Sting mark in the world.
Oh.
That being said, past the initial, oh, fuck me. I immediately looked at Kelly and I said, well, now what? Why? I don't want to see the guy wrestle anymore. I don't like every little bit of his ability and gas that he had left. He used on that Seth Rollins match, which was fine, by the way, at his old age. But it was like this Sting mark, even at question why, if it's anything past a on-camera role with whoever he's going to groom, I am disinterested now. I have the WWE Network. I'll go watch some Sting matches, folks. That's where I want to see Sting in the ring. Signed, biggest Sting mark in the world. Like I said, past the initial, and even Tony Schiavone barely getting the words "it's Sting" out. I was like, okay, well, that was cool. Now, please go do something else. Chris.
Sting.
Don't hurt my feelings, Chris.
I'm trying not to, I promise.
No, go ahead. Whatever. I know there's people that don't like him.
He just has never done anything for me, right? In ring,
You're fired.
I'm not going to, I'm not going to sit here and say he's a bad wrestler. I'd be lying to you guys, and if there's one thing I'm not, it's a liar. But just off the top of your head, name me one plus 60-year-old American that you've really run to your TV, phone, or monitor to see wrestle.
Oh, wrestle? I was going to say Phil Collins, but I don't want him wrestling. Never mind. No, none. Zero.
I remember when Ric Flair was in Raw for his 2003, 4 run, and I want to say he was in his mid-50s.
Now he's
the commentary used to bash him for being how old. You're old as fuck, Ric Flair.
Yeah.
They would just constantly, the joke was that he's old and a shell of who he was as a human being.
Yeah.
But they made that into something, right? Sting, Ric Flair, he is not.
No.
And I don't mean that in terms of wrestling ability. I mean in terms of Ric Flair was so charismatic and his character was such Ric Flair that he could do that. If Ric Flair had a match today, I'd probably enjoy it because he's old and his character is that he's old, and that could be the match layout is that he's old.
He's been doing that gimmick as long as he was doing the Nature Boy. He's old.
He's been old since I've known him. I've known of Ric Flair.
That's a very good point. That's a good point.
Sting has always been faster, looser, dynamic, and not he's a character, but he's not a show carrying character at 62 years old when younger Sting in the abuser Darby Allin is right there next to him, right? I don't want to see my brother and me in wrestling. Like it was a subpar movie. I don't want to see it in wrestling. I don't want to see Sting and Darby. I don't want to see Sting and Cody. I don't want to see Sting and Sting. I don't want to see Sting. I just don't want to see Sting. That's not appealing to me. It is, however, appealing to the demographic that they're going for. It's
Old
appealing
white
to
folks.
yeah, well, yeah, I was going for 18 to 34, but
Oh.
if you want to get to the nitty gritty,
I'll say
yeah,
it.
it's appealing to white people. It's appealing to Southerners. It's appealing to older people. It's appealing to people who watch WCW, and that's the play that they're going for. This is the son of a Rhodes. This is Cody. It's not like he's going to come up with some brand new inventive way to promote wrestling. No, he's going to do what his dad did on TV now. And what do you do? You get familiar faces and you shove them on TV and say, "Hey, remember this guy? Hey, remember him? Cool. All right, cool."
And that would be fine, Chris, if you did something with them. You brought back Arn and Tully to do what? They're invisible. You brought back Jake Roberts, who's one of the greatest. He's the greatest talker you have on that show. Nothing.
You have three in those names that you just named, Craig. Three of the greatest talkers ever to come down the pike. And past Jake Roberts have said very little. Why the fuck else would you have him on that show?
Because they're Southern and they're known by Southern old people.
God damn it, Chris! Stop talking logic.
Of white people.
Stop being logical.
The only way that Sting would get used less on AEW is if he was a woman.
Wow,
but the ironic thing about Sting, when he had his biggest success, was when he went in exactly a full year without saying anything.
Well, to be fair, he wasn't in the three of the best talkers in the business.
No.
Listen, I'm a self-aware Sting fan, by the way, Chris. There's two promos that were ever good that he's ever done. Two.
I can think of one segment of Sting that I really enjoyed, and it happened in TNA. There's also one Sting finish that I remember. That's my favorite, Sting match, and it's just a finish.
Tell the Sting Mark what that finish was, please.
It's where he's facing Robert Roode, and he's giving Robert Roode the Scorpion Death Drop, and he hits his head on the chair, and then knocks him out, and Robert Roode retains the title.
Yep, I remember it. Listen. Again, just to reiterate, biggest Sting fan. I have no use for him here. I get frustrated with AEW because the old mid-30, 37. The old, is that late 30s now? Shit.
Mid-30s.
All right, cool. Hey, Chris saved me. All right, yes. The mid-30-year-old man can get his fix watching the network.
Yeah.
But he tunes in to this one, turns into AEW for Nyla Rose, for Darby Allin, well, for everybody else. And
new faces.
Weekly, I will mention how Nyla, listen, I'm sure she is thrilled to be on TV. I'm not speaking for anybody on that show or being booked on that show. But I will still say, until they do, how Nyla wasn't booked over everybody as the Awesome Kong, as the Karma, as the Andre the Giant, as the Ric Flair, as the Sting of that company from day one, just based on how she looks and working your way forward. I don't understand and will never understand.
No, the minute the second they dropped the ball on Nyla Rose, having her lose to a 90-pound Japanese schoolgirl, I knew that the company was in trouble because in Nyla Rose, there's your Vader right there. She runs through everyone. You can even even make that the angle that she is transgender. What better way to get your product out there? And have her run through everyone, period. No exceptions. Squashes. Nothing but... She's your Vader. She's your monster heel.
Period.
Served up on a silver platter. She's a gift to you.
Any division, anywhere, period, the top heel.
Exactly.
I think you
Chris?
guys' problem is that you're using logic, and I
Oh.
feel like when you use logic, that you kind of fuck yourself up because you're acting with the best of intentions when you should be acting on what does the average white male like? Because that's how
Not
this
Nyla
company
Rose.
operates. And the average white male who tunes into AEW, how do I say it without being so blunt? They
Old white folk?
they don't like black people, especially when they can't relate to, but for some reason they can relate to Japanese girls more because they watch Puro. It's a mind fuck to me that these people who were New Japan fans who then migrated to AEW
That's
because
the other thing that.
But well, that's
Yes!
all Kenny. That's all Kenny Omega. Yeah, that's all Kenny Omega. His girlfriend and all of his Japanese schoolgirl fetish is on full display. And Dan and I have talked about this on this very podcast over and over again. Why AEW fails as a wrestling company because they don't have one guy, one decision. For WWE, for all its faults, everything begins and ends with Vince. Vince is the final word on
I
everything.
mean, like sending Keith Lee back down to go train?
which by the way didn't happen because he was on TV on Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that because I was like,
But-
wait, I'm confused. Was it after Raw?
But with AEW, you have Kenny Omega booking the women's division. You have the Bucks booking the tag division. Cody booking his own matches. Jericho's in charge of his own storyline. There's not one person. There's not one booker. There's no Dusty. There's no Bill Watts. Just say this is no. We're every match is going to go through me, and this is how it's going to go. Everyone, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Tony Khan has got his dad's money, just throwing it at everyone and anyone who wants to come. And all of his indie friends get the job. Doesn't matter if you were 4'3" like a Marco Stunted Growth, or you wrestle with your hands in your pockets, or this guy is something else, or Joey Janela. You're going to get a job. Yeah, so if anything, it gives all hopes to if you're an indie sideshow, guy, Tony Khan will throw you a whole bunch of money and you'll get on TV.
Yeah,
Never
but then
mind.
put them on my TV.
Okay, or even just book them smart. You have your maybe the next Roddy you have maybe the next Roddy Piper on your television, Joe. MJF, if you don't give him a match every week, at least give him a 2-minute segment with a microphone. And
I'll do you one better about Nyla Rose. You have the first Nyla Rose.
yes,
I don't know. I will.
A lot.
Go ahead, Chris.
Like,
I'm sorry. Cut you off.
No, you're good. But there's a lot of talent that, like, you know who my favorite wrestler was growing up, like as a kid? It was Scotty 2 Hotty. You know why? Because Scotty 2 Hotty appealed to me. Like, he was getting it. Like, him and Grandmaster Sexay with that dumb dance they used to do, and the hip hop drop, and getting the glasses and fogging them up, and all that stuff. That got over with me. And you know what? Orange Cassidy got over with a group of people. And they've got characters. They've got talent. The issue is they don't know what to do with them because they're too concerned with winning the ratings war than presenting a cohesive wrestling show. If they just sat, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
My counterpoint, not my counterpoint, but to add to what you were saying is the ratings war. I just watched, which is the point I wanted to bring up. So I'm glad you said what you said. I just watched Wrestling with Regret, and he was reviewing the second to last WCW pay-per-view, and he went over the ratings, and the number was similar to the numbers that they're hitting on Wednesdays and Mondays, and I'm like, those are the numbers they're fighting with. Those low-ass numbers should not be the fucking discussion every week.
Guys Grocery Games is beating them. Like, what are we fighting over when they beat Guys Grocery Games? Then we can start having discussions about which one of them is better. Like, it's syndicated game shows where people cook has more of a draw and appeal to the average viewer than both either Orange Cassidy putting his hands in his pocket or Johnny Gargano in his ghost face. Because they're not made for normal people. None of the stuff is made so that somebody who either has never seen wrestling or has an adverse opinion on wrestling will change the channel and go, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm going to stick around and watch this. But if you're turning, I hate to always bring it back to the Attitude Era, and I hate the Attitude Era, by the way, so don't take this as me saying that I love the Attitude Era. But if I'm flipping the channels and I see that this dude with long black hair and all black has a woman damn near crucified in the middle of the ring, I kind of want to see how this turns out. I kind of want to see he's gonna stab her. Like, I want to see how this turns out. But if I've got two dudes wrestling, I don't give a fuck about that. So there's nothing appealing to people who don't watch wrestling. And I feel like that's the biggest problem with wrestling, is that people push other people out of wrestling because they want it to be too much of this. Wrestling should be this. Wrestling should be that. We should have this amount of shows. It should be pure. It should be just this. It should be... No, wrestling is a variety show. And wrestling is a craft that draws people in, honestly, based on its absurdity. So when people say that wrestling should be more realistic, yeah, okay. While you're punching me in the face, the first thing that I'm going to do is grab you by your wrist and shoot you off and watch you as you rebound to me. And my first thought is going to be, you know what? I'm going to jump over this nigga's head. Like, that's not what you do in a real fight. Like, that's not real.
I tried once. I got hit in the balls.
Yeah, I don't want to hear this realism talk where the dude has already dropped down leapfrog hip toss. No, that's not what happens in a real fight. But if we embrace the absurdity that is pro wrestling, I think that more people would be involved in pro wrestling, so that way you could get them to watch a 30-minute, like, classic pro wrestling match. But we're too involved in, the rating should be this and work rate should be this and everybody's got to go 20 minutes and everybody's got to be really proficient at every single move possible, because that's the only thing that pro wrestling is as I drive it, it's scaring the hose, Dan. It is scaring the hose. And that is the problem in pro wrestling.
May I say I am, though, a fan of Pigtails, Joey Janela, and Sonny Kiss being together.
It's fresh. It's something new. I'm not a big fan of Joey Janela, but I like the pairing.
Yeah, well, you'd be the 800th person to say that, and I understand. I love Joey Janela, and he's always been real friendly to me, but I catch you.
Mm-hmm.
But I just watched Sonny Kiss pull a table out of the bottom of the ring to give it to Joey, and the camera angle was, thank you.
I like that we do those camera angles for Sonny too. I do so really appreciate that. But that's something different, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you had a running angle throughout the show where segment one, it starts and then it gets 3 other segments that end at a pretty cool conclusion at the end that rewards you for sticking around and watching the show. But also, if you're like the casual viewer and you see something that jumps out at you in like segment 4, right? And this is a 16 segment show, and you hop into segment 4 or 5, and guess what? By the time segment 6 comes, now you're part of the running narrative. Let me stick around a little bit. Something else cool happens, right? Then there's a wrestling match, and you might get bored, but guess what? Here comes segment 8, and segment 8 is a recurring part of segment 5, and it's a concurrent story. So you're like, oh wait, they're telling a story. Well, now I want to see how this ends. I want to see what the ending is to this concurrent story. Well, let's put some absurdity in the middle somewhere, and then you've got your main event, which is a serious match or whatever you want to do. Well, guess what? Now you've hooked this person because there's going to be something in there they like, or the story conclusion is going to be so fulfilling. I'll tune in next week to see what happens, because this is a cliffhanger, and they did kind of leave me, and we're in a pandemic, so I'll give it another chance.
Sure.
But no, everything's got to be work rate, white people bullshit.
Ask Craig. It's the most wrestling I watch is when we're doing the show. I'm trying. I do catch up on YouTube just so I can, have a conversation with conversation. I haven't even had any drinks yet. Conversation with Craig or whoever guests me. I just have a conversation.
I watch one show.
Yeah.
Every week now. On top of indie stuff. So I watch all the indie stuff. But I mean, like, as far as like TV wrestling, I watch one show, and even when it was bad, I watched it. But Black People Loyalty, SmackDown. I watched SmackDown. And when I say Black People Loyalty, it started on UPN, and that was the nigga station. And I have followed it all the way through from the start, because for some reason, at least to me, felt like that show has always been marketed to Black people. It might be wrong. I might be completely wrong, but to me, It felt like Raw was for the people that had cable and for the white people. And you got all the cool stuff there, but SmackDown, that was for the niggas.
I
And you
loved
got
it.
tours of JBC and Lugs Boots and what's his name was there. The Slam of the Week by Funkmaster Flex. Like, it just seemed like it was geared to black people. But yeah, I watched SmackDown, and it SmackDown is by far away what I'm talking about when it comes to let's have a coherent story throughout the show.
Sure.
Let's sprinkle in some shit, but we're gonna make sure that if we catch somebody, because it's on Fox and they have to, if we catch somebody scrolling channels, they're gonna see something cool and they're gonna at least watch until the end of the next commercial break.
Never forget, at UPN was UPN and Star Trek.
Yeah. By the way, you can watch Deep Space Nine. That comes on Tuesdays. All this is one-on-one and Moesha and the Parkers and girlfriends. And by the way, Deep Space Nine is later in the week. You can check on that.
We also have this new show called Voyager. Check it out, nerds.
And don't forget Homeboys in Outer Space.
Oh boy, Cleopatra 2525 also used to come on UPN for like a season and a half, and I thought that shit was great.
I'm gonna need more information about Homeboys in Space.
Oh, you got it.
Oh shit! Really? You both said the same thing in a different order. I'll have to check this out after we're done.
Yeah, it's crazy how they'll cancel a good show after 6 episodes, but Homeboys in Outer Space got a full season's worth of episodes.
Oh,
it's just McNasty got 3 seasons, so we're at this point where we're just picking quarters.
Now I remember Shasta McNasty. Now hold on.
Homeboys in Outer Space was Funkmaster Flex and Daryl Bell, who was Ron Johnson in Different World, and they were Homeboys. The title says it all. Really, I can't. Can't really expound on that, Chris. I will say that if you want to check out Raw, what's going on with the Hurt Business has done more for black wrestlers than any heel group, and they're the best heel group on television for me. But
I catch them on clips and pay-per-view, and I love the Hurt Business.
Yes, why they don't have all the belts, I don't know. Right now, maybe that'll change for after this Sunday's pay-per-view, but that's really where it should go and where the direction of the because you're talking about a cohesive storyline, having the Hurt Business involved in every, like, at least 3 or 4 different segments, and Raw's a 3-hour show, so you got a lot of time to fill up. Having those guys run roughshod through everyone during the course of a show would do wonders for A, your storytelling, and B, you've got 4 guys that can go, and not only you'll be rewarding your longtime veterans that have been there and are now in their mid-40s, and namely MVP Shelton and Bobby Lashley, but Cedric Alexander, who needed some type of push somewhere because a guy that good needs to be on TV every week, and he doesn't have to talk now because you got MVP there. So he can be the worker of the 4, and so
the fact that we and this will be the last comment, and then we're gonna end this popsicle. The fact that the timeline between me telling you Cedric Alexander is going to WWE to you still saying God he still needed a push is fucking mind-boggling on itself. Chris is laughing because he knows why. Makes no fucking sense. I have my feeling.
Carried 205 Live with 2 other people for like a year and a half. It was the Cedric Alexander show featuring Buddy Murphy and Ali, with special appearances from Tony Nese and Akira Tozawa. Like that was the show.
Tony Nese is another guy. He's exactly what Vince wants. He looks like fucking Adonis. He can go with anybody. I've seen that dude wrestle so many places. Cedric Alexander too. I'm putting them together, and we're not pushing him.
You know what it was with Tony Nese? I think, and I don't want to make it a height thing, but I look at Fabian.
Probably
Eichner,
was
right. It probably is. I look at Fabian Eichner though, right, where they signed him and he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna get fat, and then I'm gonna get built, and I'm not gonna be anywhere near this cruiserweight shit ever again," because he saw where the tide was turning, and he saw that they had no faith in that division. He said, "You know what? I'm gonna go gain 40 pounds, and we're not doing this cruiserweight shit ever again. And now he's off with Imperium, and granted, they're greatly on hold because of what's going on. But like before that, no, they was a staple on NXT UK. They had just moved to NXT. Like, good for him for realizing that this cruiserweight, he would have been relished off he would still be in 205 Live. Tony Nese is still on 205 Live. Still on.
Insulting. It's insulting. It's insulting to both men.
Original.
And that's too many years. With that being said, I could go for another hour, but we do have a whole other episode to record. Yeah. So, Chris, hang on after outros.
Okay.
But it is time to outro this one. Chris, you can come back anytime.
Thank you.
Please do. I'm glad I'm allowing you. You know what I meant. Jesus Christ. Shut up, Dan. Hey, Chris, plug Fight Club, plug your Twitter and where people can follow you, please.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Chris Kazama. You can add me on PlayStation Network at Kazama is Dead. That's my second plug because I love PlayStation. You can follow Fight Club at PAWD_WC. That stands for the Pan African World Diaspora Wrestling Championship. You can follow us or find us on IWTV. You can use our promo code FIGHT1 for a 5-day free trial where you can see the events push. A champion is crowned. Our cinematic event, Summer Jam, our cinematic event, Fight Island. You can find Summer Jam, and our first event, a champion is crowned. I don't think we have anything else. You can find us also on YouTube at Pan African World Diaspora Wrestling Championship. I think that's it. I think that's all of it.
And I'm imploring you, go and follow that company and just look at the pretty belt and work your way forward. Well, look at the pretty person holding the pretty belt and then work your way forward.
Yeah. Trisha's killing it right now.
I said this when Trisha walks into the room, everything lights up.
Yeah.
I've been in several locker rooms with Trisha. I've watched her matches. Just being around her, everybody's like, it's just better.
She really lights up a room, and she also has carried herself as champion far better than anyone could have dreamed of. Like, as the first world champion, because I and many other people called this the Pan African World Diaspora Wrestling Championship the world championship of professional wrestling, and that's the greatest honor that I could have. But also for Trish, and that's because of Trish and how she's carried herself as the champion, and these defenses, and just being the person who she is. Like, we could not have had a better champion representing the brand and the company.
So please check them out, listeners. I beg of you. I'm sorry about that. I think I had a nerve die in my hand, and I couldn't control my hand for a second. I felt like Dr. Strangelove at the end there. No. Don't do that. Craig, yes, exactly. Craig, where can the people follow you, Craig?
The people can follow me, do it like the Baron, at Craig Ligons, CraigLiggeons, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and that is all the people need to know.
Why am I even doing my thing at the end of the show now with you two? This is so lame. Hey guys, follow me, DanielL83. DanielL83 on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, and on Facebook. Type in DanielL83 and find me there. All the podcasts will be on VOCNation.com and, of course, on your smartphone app. No, on your smartphone, on your podcast app. I got it. Type in, like I haven't done this before, VOC Nation Radio Network, and find all their podcasts there. For Chris, for Craig, I'm Dan. Good night.